The FedEx truck pulled away from our circular driveway just as I closed my laptop, stretching back in the leather chair that dominated my home office. April sunshine streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the engineering awards lining my walls and casting geometric shadows across blueprints scattered on my mahogany desk. At 44, I'd built Mitchell & Associates Engineering into one of Charlotte's premier firms, our success evident in every detail of our Myers Park home. I should have been reviewing the Carolinas Medical Center expansion project, but the afternoon sun made it impossible to concentrate. 17 years of marriage had taught me to appreciate these rare, quiet moments when Natalie was traveling for work and the kids were still at school. The doorbell chimed again. I frowned, checking my watch. 2:30 p.m. on a Thursday. Grace wouldn't be home from Charlotte Latin until 4, and Cole had debate practice until 6. I padded through our marble foyer, noting how the afternoon light made our crystal chandelier cast rainbow patterns across the walls. A young woman in a FedEx uniform stood at our front door, tablet in hand. "Package for Natalie Mitchell," she said, extending a thin envelope. "I'll take it." I signed the electronic pad, noting the sender. Davidson Family Law Associates. My stomach tightened. We'd been fortunate never to need legal services beyond business contracts. The delivery woman handed me the envelope and jogged back to her truck. I turned the package over in my hands, feeling its light weight. The return address was local. Davidson Family Law, located in the heart of Charlotte's business district. I'd heard the name mentioned at country club gatherings, usually in hushed tones about messy divorces among our social circle. In 17 years of marriage, Natalie and I had maintained an open policy about mail and packages. We handled each other's business correspondence routinely, especially during travel season when one of us was frequently out of town. She'd been in Atlanta since Tuesday for what she called a critical pharmaceutical summit with key medical clients. I carried the envelope to my office, settling back into my chair. The afternoon sun had shifted, no longer hitting me directly. I slid my letter opener under the flap and pulled out several neatly stapled pages. Petition for absolute divorce dominated the header in bold capital letters. My hands went numb. The papers fluttered to my desk as if they'd caught fire. I stared at them for a long moment, then picked them up with trembling fingers. The petition was dated April 15th, 3 days ago. Filed by Jennifer Davidson, attorney for plaintiff. Plaintiff, Natalie Rebecca Mitchell. Defendant, Jacob Paul Mitchell. My vision blurred as I scanned the opening paragraphs. Plaintiff alleges that the parties have irreconcilable differences which have caused the irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. The legal language felt foreign and cold, describing the end of our life together in clinical terms. I forced myself to keep reading. Asset division, custody arrangements, spousal support requests. Each paragraph contained intimate details of our financial life. Bank account numbers I'd forgotten we had, investment portfolios I'd built for our retirement, business valuations that could only have come from months of preparation. Natalie wanted primary custody of Grace and Cole. She wanted half the value of Mitchell & Associates. She wanted the house, or equivalent value. She wanted temporary and permanent spousal support. But it was the proposed custody schedule that made my chest tighten. Every other weekend. Wednesday evening dinners. Alternating holidays. 17 years of marriage reduced to a visitation schedule. I leaned back in my chair, papers scattered across my desk like fragments of a bomb. The afternoon sun had shifted again, leaving my office in shadows. How long had I been sitting here? The grandfather clock in our hallway chimed 3 times. My phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. "Summit going well? Dinner with potential new accounts tonight. Love you." I stared at the message for a long time, then set the phone aside without responding. "Love you." The words seemed to mock me from the screen. I gathered the papers and read them again, more carefully this time. The detail was staggering. Natalie knew about investment accounts I'd forgotten we had. She'd calculated my business partnership value with surgical precision. She'd researched private schools in different neighborhoods I didn't recognize. One address caught my attention. A proposed residence in the Myers Park area, but not our current neighborhood. I didn't recognize the street name, but the description suggested proximity to Carolina's Medical Center. I walked to our kitchen and poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon, then returned to my office. The alcohol burned, but it steadied my hands enough to pick up the papers again. The petition referenced irreconcilable differences arising during the course of the marriage. No mention of another person, no admission of fault, just the sterile language of no-fault divorce. But marriages don't disintegrate overnight. The detailed financial analysis suggested months of planning. Natalie had consulted an attorney, gathered documentation, developed a comprehensive exit strategy, all while maintaining the facade of our partnership. I thought about the last few months. Natalie's increased travel, her new focus on expanding her pharmaceutical territory to include the entire Southeast region, her evening client entertainment events, her weekend medical conferences. And then there was Dr. Ryan Fletcher. Natalie had mentioned him casually over dinner about 6 months ago. A cardiologist at Carolina's Medical Center, recently divorced, building a new practice. She'd landed his pharmaceutical account, she said. Big opportunity for expanded sales in the cardiac treatment space. Dr. Fletcher had come up in conversation frequently since then. Always professional context, always business justification. But I remembered now how her eyes lit up when she discussed their collaborative opportunities. I opened my laptop and searched for Dr. Ryan Fletcher. His practice website showed a confident man in his late 30s, dark hair, strong jaw, medical degree from Duke. Recently joined Carolina's Medical Center's cardiology department. Divorced, according to the brief biographical paragraph. The front door slammed. "Dad?" Grace's voice carried from the foyer. I quickly closed my laptop and shoved the divorce papers into my desk drawer. "In here, sweetheart." Grace appeared in my office doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder, still wearing her Charlotte Latin uniform. At 15, she'd inherited Natalie's auburn hair and my analytical mind, a combination that made her formidable in debate class and honors calculus. "You're home early," she said, dropping her backpack by my desk. "Light day, how was school?" "Mrs. Henderson assigned our senior project proposals. I'm thinking about structural engineering applications in sustainable architecture." She perched on the edge of my desk, a habit she'd maintained since childhood. "Want to help me research graduate programs that combine engineering and environmental design?" The normalcy of the conversation felt surreal after what I'd just read. Here was my daughter, planning her future, discussing colleges and careers, while upstairs our family photos still decorated the hallway and Natalie's clothes still hung in our closet. "Of course," I managed. "We'll start this weekend." Grace studied my face with the intensity she'd inherited from me. "Are you feeling all right? You look pale." "Just tired. Long day of project reviews." She nodded, seemingly satisfied, and gathered her backpack. "I'll be upstairs doing homework. Call me when Cole gets home. We're supposed to practice his presentation for Model UN." After she left, I pulled the papers out again. The custody section detailed how Natalie envisioned splitting time with Grace and Cole. Did she think she could simply present this as a fait accompli? Did she believe I'd meekly accept her predetermined arrangements? My phone rang. The caller ID showed Michael Torres, my business attorney. We'd worked together for years on contract negotiations and partnership agreements. "Jake, glad I caught you. I wanted to discuss the Carolina's Medical Center project timeline." "Michael," I interrupted, "I need to ask you something confidential. Hypothetically, if someone received divorce papers they weren't expecting, what would be the appropriate first steps?" Silence on the other end. Then, Jake, are you all right? Just answer the question. Hypothetically, that person should contact a domestic relations attorney immediately, preferably before responding to any communication from the opposing party. Why are you asking? I stared at the papers spread across my desk. I'll call you back. Jake, if this isn't hypothetical, DJ. I hung up and sat in the growing darkness of my office. Outside, I could hear the familiar sounds of our neighborhood coming alive for evening. Automatic sprinklers activating, garage doors opening as neighbors returned from work, the distant laughter of children playing in backyards. Everything sounded normal. Everything looked normal. But nothing would ever be normal again. The grandfather clock chimed 4 times. Cole would be home in 2 hours. Grace was upstairs doing homework, probably already researching college engineering programs on her laptop. In their world, everything was stable, secure, predictable. I thought about Natalie's text message, dinner with potential new accounts tonight. Was she having dinner with Dr. Fletcher right now? Was she sitting across from him in some Atlanta restaurant, planning their future while our children did homework and I discovered her betrayal through a misfiled legal document? The irony wasn't lost on me. After 17 years of marriage, I'd learned about our divorce the same way I learned about business contracts, through FedEx delivery. I poured another bourbon and called Michael Torres back. I need the name of the best divorce attorney in Charlotte, I said when he answered. Someone who understands complex asset division and business valuation. Jakov DJ. I'm serious, Michael. The best. Someone who can move quickly. Another pause. Margaret Weiss. Weiss Family Law. She's aggressive, thorough, and discreet. But Jake, what's going on? I'll explain later. Can you call her tonight? Tell her I need an emergency consultation tomorrow morning. Consider it done. But as your friend, I have to ask. Are you and Natalie having problems? I looked at the divorce papers scattered across my desk. Apparently we are. After ending the call, I walked through our house, seeing it differently than I had that morning. The marble floors Natalie had insisted on during our renovation. The custom kitchen where she'd hosted countless dinner parties for my business contacts. The family room where we'd watched Grace and Cole's school performances and sports events. In the master bedroom, I opened Natalie's closet. Her clothes hung neatly organized by color and season. Business suits for pharmaceutical sales calls. Cocktail dresses for industry events. Casual wear for weekend family activities. Everything looked normal, but I found myself wondering which outfits she'd worn for dinner dates with Dr. Fletcher. Her jewelry box sat on the marble vanity, holding pieces I'd given her for anniversaries and birthdays. The diamond earrings for our 10th anniversary, the pearl necklace for her promotion to regional sales director, the tennis bracelet for last Christmas. Had she worn any of these for him? I opened her vanity drawer, not sure what I was looking for. Makeup, brushes, the usual items. But tucked behind a bottle of foundation was a small box I didn't recognize. Inside, a key on a simple ring. No markings, no identification. My hands shook as I held the key. What did it open? An apartment? A storage unit? A new life she'd been building in secret? Grace's voice carried from downstairs. Dad, Cole's home. I quickly replaced the key and closed the drawer. By the time I reached the kitchen, Cole was already raiding the refrigerator, still wearing his Charlotte Latin blazer and debate team pin. How was practice? I asked, grateful for the distraction. Excellent. We're preparing for regionals next month. Cole grabbed an apple and leaned against the granite counter. At 12, he already showed signs of the competitive intelligence that ran in our family. Mrs. Patterson thinks we have a real shot at state championships this year. That's fantastic. What's your debate topic? Economic policy and social responsibility in healthcare. He bit into his apple, juice running down his chin. I'm arguing that pharmaceutical companies should prioritize patient access over profit margins. The irony hit me like a physical blow. My son was preparing to debate pharmaceutical industry ethics, while his mother was apparently conducting an affair with a doctor that might violate both professional standards and her own company's policies. Interesting topic, I managed. Grace is helping me research conflict of interest issues in healthcare, Cole continued. Did you know that pharmaceutical sales representatives aren't supposed to have personal relationships with the doctors they work with? It creates ethical violations. I set down my bourbon glass harder than intended. Where did you learn that? Grace found it online. The American Medical Association has strict guidelines about vendor relationships. Apparently, hospitals can lose accreditation if doctors have inappropriate relationships with pharmaceutical reps. My pulse quickened. If Cole could find this information online, what might a detailed investigation reveal about Natalie's relationship with Dr. Fletcher? Dad, are you okay? Cole was studying me with concern. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just tired, son. It's been a long day. Maybe you should call Mom. She always knows how to cheer you up. The innocent suggestion felt like a knife twist. Call Mom, the woman who was currently in Atlanta having dinner with her lover while her attorney prepared to destroy our family. She's busy with work, I said. How about we order pizza for dinner? Both kids cheered, and for the next hour, I managed to maintain the pretense of normalcy. We ordered pizza, discussed Grace's college plans and Cole's debate preparation, and watched an episode of their favorite show. But underneath it all, my mind raced with questions and implications. After the kids went upstairs to finish homework, I returned to my office and spread the divorce papers across my desk again. This time, I read them with the methodical attention I brought to engineering projects. The asset division was sophisticated, suggesting months of preparation. Natalie had calculated business valuations, investment portfolio values, and real estate assessments with professional precision. She'd even included contingencies for market fluctuations and business growth projections. But it was the custody proposal that revealed her true intentions. Primary residence with her. Minimal visitation for me. Decision-making authority for education, healthcare, and extracurricular activities. She wasn't just planning to leave our marriage, she was planning to take our children. I opened my laptop and began researching Jennifer Davidson. Her law firm's website showed an impressive track record in high-asset divorce cases. Client testimonials praised her aggressive approach and thorough preparation. Recent case results showed significant settlements in favor of her female clients. One detail caught my attention. Davidson Family Law specialized in cases involving professional misconduct and ethical violations. Their website specifically mentioned pharmaceutical industry cases and medical professional disputes. Why would Natalie choose an attorney who specialized in professional misconduct unless there was professional misconduct to address? I searched for Dr. Ryan Fletcher again, this time looking beyond his practice website. His social media presence was minimal, but I found a few professional photos from medical conferences and hospital events. Recent images showed him at pharmaceutical industry gatherings, events where he would naturally interact with sales representatives like Natalie. My phone buzzed with another text from Natalie. Conference dinner running late. Probably won't be able to call tonight. Kiss the kids goodnight for me. I stared at the message, then deleted it without responding. Kiss the kids goodnight. While she planned to take them away from me, the house settled into its evening rhythm. Grace practicing piano in the family room. Cole on a video call with his debate partner. The sounds of our normal life continuing while I sat in my office, planning how to protect everything I cared about. I picked up my phone and called Michael Torres again. Did you reach Margaret Weiss? Yes, she can see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Her office is downtown on 5th Street. Perfect. I need you to do something else for me, Michael. Quietly. What do you need? I want you to research Davidson Family Law Associates. Specifically, Jennifer Davidson's recent cases involving pharmaceutical companies and medical professionals. Can you do that without attracting attention? Silence on the other end. Then, Jake, what are you planning? I'm planning to protect my children and my business. Just get me the information. I'll have something for you by tomorrow afternoon. After hanging up, I opened a new document on my laptop and began making notes. Dates, times, names, observations. If Natalie had been planning this for months, I needed to understand exactly what she'd been doing and who she'd been doing it with. The key from her jewelry box bothered me. What did it open? Where had she been going that required a separate key? I made a note to investigate further. Cole appeared in my office doorway, already in his pajamas. Dad, I finished my homework. Can you help me practice my opening statement? I closed my laptop and gave him my full attention. For the next 30 minutes, we worked on his debate preparation, discussing economic policy and social responsibility. The irony of helping him argue against conflicts of interest in healthcare wasn't lost on me, but I focused on being present for my son. After he went to bed, I returned to the divorce papers. The proposed settlement was aggressive, but it contained assumptions that might work in my favor. Natalie had calculated business valuations based on current market conditions, not accounting for potential growth or strategic partnerships. She'd assumed equal division of retirement accounts without considering contribution timing and tax implications. Most importantly, she'd assumed I would accept her custody proposal without fighting. That was her first mistake. I poured another bourbon and began planning my response. If Natalie wanted to end our marriage through legal ambush, she was about to discover that she'd chosen the wrong opponent. I'd built a successful engineering firm by solving complex problems with methodical precision. This would be no different. The grandfather clock chimed 10 times. Outside, our neighborhood had settled into quiet darkness. Security lights illuminated empty driveways and manicured lawns. Everything looked peaceful and prosperous, the kind of stability Natalie was preparing to destroy. I thought about Grace upstairs, probably still researching college programs, planning her future with the confidence that comes from growing up in a stable home. I thought about Cole, practicing debate arguments, secure in the knowledge that his parents supported his ambitions. They had no idea their mother was planning to upend their lives. My phone buzzed one more time. Another text from Natalie. Miss you. Home Friday evening. Can't wait to see everyone. Miss you. The casual lie felt like a slap. She missed me so much that she'd filed for divorce 3 days ago. I screenshot the message, then added it to a new folder on my phone labeled Documentation. If Natalie wanted to play games, I'd document every move. The house creaked as it settled for the night. Somewhere upstairs, Grace was probably falling asleep while reading engineering textbooks. Cole was likely dreaming about winning debate championships. Normal teenage concerns in what they believed was a normal, stable family. I opened the divorce papers one more time, focusing on the signature page. Natalie's elegant handwriting authorizing Jennifer Davidson to proceed with dissolution of our marriage. The same handwriting that had signed our marriage certificate 17 years ago. The same handwriting that signed birthday cards and anniversary notes and school permission slips. Now it was signing away our life together. I folded the papers carefully and locked them in my desk drawer. Tomorrow, I would begin building my defense. Tonight, I needed to process the reality that the woman I'd trusted with my heart, my home, and my children had been systematically planning our destruction. The bourbon was gone. The house was quiet, and for the first time in 17 years, I fell asleep in my office chair, too exhausted and heartbroken to climb the stairs to the bedroom I'd shared with a stranger. I woke to Grace shaking my shoulder gently. Sunlight streamed through my office windows and my neck ached from sleeping in the chair. Dad? Why are you sleeping in here? I blinked, momentarily disoriented, then remembered. The divorce papers, the FedEx delivery, the bourbon. I fell asleep working on project reviews, I said, stretching my stiff muscles. Mom called looking for you this morning. I told her you were in the shower. Grace studied my face with concern. Are you sure you're feeling all right? Just tired. What time is it? 7:30. Cole's already eating breakfast. I had 30 minutes to shower and dress for my appointment with Margaret Weiss. Thanks for covering for me, sweetheart. I'll be down in a few minutes. Grace nodded, but didn't leave. Dad, is everything okay between you and Mom? The direct question caught me off guard. Grace had always been perceptive, but this felt like more than casual observation. Why do you ask? She's been traveling more lately, and when she's home, she seems distracted, like her mind is somewhere else. Out of the mouths of babes. Our 15-year-old daughter had noticed what I'd been too trusting to see. Sometimes work gets stressful, I said carefully. For both of us. Grace nodded, but I could see she wasn't satisfied with the answer. If you and Mom ever need to talk to us about anything, we can handle it. Cole and I aren't little kids anymore. The maturity in her voice nearly broke my heart. She was preparing herself for bad news, probably had been for months. How long had our children been watching our marriage deteriorate while I remained obliviously optimistic? I know you can handle anything, Grace. You're stronger than I was at your age. She smiled and headed toward the door, then turned back. Dad? Whatever's going on, we love you. Both of you. Just remember that, okay? After she left, I sat in my chair for a long moment, processing her words. Our children had been watching and worrying while Natalie planned her exit strategy. They'd sensed the growing distance in our marriage even as I maintained faith in our partnership. I showered quickly and dressed in my best suit, the charcoal gray Armani that Natalie had helped me choose for important business meetings. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was wearing her fashion advice to meet with a divorce attorney. Downtown Charlotte buzzed with morning activity as I drove to Margaret Weiss's office. The spring air carried hints of summer heat, and the banking district gleamed in the sunshine. This was my city, the place where I'd built my career and raised my family. Whatever happened with Natalie, I wasn't giving up my home. Weiss Family Law occupied 2 floors of a glass tower on 5th Street. The reception area spoke of quiet prosperity. Mahogany furniture, original art, fresh flowers. A young woman behind the reception desk smiled professionally. Mr. Mitchell, Ms. Weiss is ready for you. Margaret Weiss's office commanded a spectacular view of the Charlotte skyline. She was younger than I'd expected, perhaps 40, with sharp features and intelligent eyes behind designer glasses. Her handshake was firm, her smile warm but professional. Michael Torres speaks very highly of you, she said, gesturing to a seating area by the windows. He mentioned you need immediate consultation regarding domestic relations. I handed her the divorce papers. My wife filed these without any prior discussion. I received them by accident yesterday afternoon. Weiss read through the documents with practiced efficiency, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. Her expression remained neutral, but I caught subtle reactions. A raised eyebrow at the asset division proposal, a slight frown at the custody arrangements. How long have you been married? She asked without looking up. 17 years, 2 children, 15 and 12. Any prior separations or marriage counseling? None. As far as I knew, we had a strong partnership. Weiss set the papers aside and studied me directly. Mr. Mitchell, these documents represent months of preparation. Your wife has had comprehensive business valuations, asset assessments, and custody recommendations prepared. This wasn't an impulsive decision. I'm beginning to understand that. The question is, what do you want to achieve? Do you want to save your marriage? Or do you want to protect your interests in a divorce proceeding? I thought about Natalie's text messages from Atlanta. Dinner with potential new accounts. The secret key hidden in her jewelry box. The months of business travel and professional conferences. I want to protect my children and my business, I said. If the marriage can be saved, I'm open to that. But I'm not going to be ambushed. Weiss nodded approvingly. Smart approach. Now, I need to understand your situation completely. Tell me about your wife's work, her recent behavior changes, and anything that might explain this timing. For the next hour, I detailed everything I could remember. Natalie's increased travel, her new pharmaceutical accounts, particularly Dr. Fletcher, her evening client entertainment and weekend conferences, her distracted behavior at home that even Grace had noticed. This Dr. Fletcher, Weiss said, making notes. You believe there might be a personal relationship? I suspect it, but I don't have proof. If there is an affair, and if it involves professional conflicts of interest, that changes the legal landscape significantly. Weiss leaned forward. North Carolina is a fault-based state. Adultery affects spousal support and can influence asset division. But more importantly, if your wife is involved in professional misconduct, that creates leverage. What kind of leverage? The kind that protects your children and your assets. Weiss's smile was sharp. Mr. Mitchell, your wife made a tactical error by filing prematurely. She's shown you her strategy before the battle begins. That gives us significant advantages. What do you recommend? First, we gather evidence. I work with excellent private investigators who specialize in adultery cases. Second, we research the professional relationship between your wife and Dr. Fletcher. If there are ethical violations, we expose them. Third, we prepare a comprehensive response that protects your interests. Weiss pulled out a retainer agreement. My fee is $500 per hour, with a $25,000 retainer. Given the complexity of your assets and the apparent sophistication of opposing counsel, this case will require significant resources. I signed the agreement without hesitation. $25,000 was a fraction of what Natalie was trying to take from me. One more thing, Weiss said. Don't let your wife know you've discovered the papers. Let her believe her plan is proceeding normally. Meanwhile, we'll develop our own strategy. How long do we have? Based on these documents, I'd estimate she plans to serve you formally within the next 2 weeks. That gives us time to investigate and prepare, but not much. I left Weiss's office feeling better than I had since yesterday afternoon. For the first time since discovering the divorce papers, I felt like I had a plan instead of just anger and confusion. My phone rang as I walked to my car. Michael Torres. How did it go with Margaret Weiss? Very well, she's taking the case. Did you get the information I requested? Some of it. Jennifer Davidson has handled several high-profile cases involving pharmaceutical companies in the last 2 years. Professional misconduct, ethics violations, that sort of thing. She seems to specialize in situations where personal relationships compromise professional judgment. Interesting? Anything else? One thing that stood out. Davidson represented a pharmaceutical sales rep last year in a case against Merck. The rep was fired for having an affair with a doctor who influenced prescribing patterns. Davidson got her a substantial settlement by proving the company knew about the relationship and failed to address it properly. My pulse quickened. So she has experience with this exact situation. It appears so. Jake, if Natalie is involved with this Dr. Fletcher, she might be in serious professional trouble. That could explain why she's moving so aggressively with the divorce. She's trying to get out before the scandal breaks. That's my guess. Be careful, Jake. If she's desperate, she might do something unpredictable. After hanging up, I sat in my car for a moment, processing the implications. Natalie wasn't just planning to leave our marriage, she was planning to escape professional consequences. The divorce was her exit strategy, designed to protect her from the fallout of her affair with Dr. Fletcher. But she'd made a crucial error in timing. By filing the papers before serving me, she'd given me advance warning. And by choosing an attorney who specialized in pharmaceutical industry ethics cases, she'd inadvertently revealed the nature of her misconduct. I drove back to Myers Park, planning my next moves. The house was empty, Grace and Cole were at school, and I had the day to myself. Perfect timing for what I needed to do. First, I called Margaret Weiss's office and requested her recommended private investigator. Within an hour, I had an appointment with Lisa Parker, a former police detective who specialized in adultery investigations and corporate misconduct. Second, I began researching Dr. Fletcher in detail. His medical practice, his hospital affiliations, his professional associations. If he was involved with Natalie, there would be evidence. Third, I started documenting everything. Natalie's travel schedule, her expense reports, her client list. If she was using company resources to conduct an affair, I'd find the proof. By afternoon, I had a comprehensive timeline of Natalie's behavior changes over the last 6 months. The pattern was clear once I looked for it. Increased travel to cities where Dr. Fletcher attended conferences, dinner meetings that lasted until midnight, weekend training sessions that coincided with his schedule. My phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. Flight delayed. Won't be home until late tonight. Don't wait up. I screenshot the message and added it to my documentation folder. Flight delayed. Or perhaps dinner with Dr. Fletcher was running long. Grace and Cole came home from school with their usual energy and chaos. Grace had received her acceptance letter to a summer engineering program at NC State. Cole had been selected for the state debate championships. Normal teenage triumphs that should have been family celebrations. Instead, I found myself wondering if Natalie would be present for these milestones, or if she'd be too busy planning her new life with Dr. Fletcher. Mom's flight is delayed, I told them over dinner. She won't be home until late. Again? Cole looked disappointed. She was supposed to help me prepare for regionals this weekend. I can help you, Grace offered. We'll make sure you're ready. The easy way my children adapted to Natalie's absence suggested this wasn't the first time she'd missed important family events. How many school concerts, sports games, and family dinners had she skipped for business travel that might actually have been affair-related meetings? That evening, after the kids finished homework, I returned to my research. Dr. Fletcher's professional profile showed recent board certifications and hospital privileges at Carolina's Medical Center. He'd been divorced for 18 months, according to public records. His ex-wife had received substantial alimony and property settlements, suggesting significant assets. More interesting were his pharmaceutical industry connections. Dr. Fletcher served on advisory boards for several major companies, including Vertex Pharmaceuticals, Natalie's employer. The potential conflicts of interest were obvious, but proving inappropriate influence would require detailed documentation. I called Lisa Parker and scheduled a meeting for the following morning. If Natalie was conducting an affair that violated professional ethics, I needed evidence before she realized I knew about her divorce plans. At midnight, I heard Natalie's car in the driveway. I quickly closed my laptop and pretended to be sleeping when she entered our bedroom. She moved quietly, trying not to wake me, but I listened as she undressed and brushed her teeth. "Jake," she whispered, "are you awake?" I remained still, breathing deeply. After a moment, she slipped into bed beside me. Her hair smelled like hotel shampoo, and her skin carried the faint scent of restaurant food and wine. Dinner with Dr. Fletcher, most likely. "I missed you," she said softly, settling against her pillow. The casual lie felt like a physical blow. She'd missed me so much that she'd filed for divorce and planned to take our children. She'd missed me so much that she was conducting an affair that could destroy both our families. I lay in the darkness, listening to her breathing gradually slow into sleep. 3 feet away from me was the woman I'd loved for 17 years. the mother of my children, my business partner in building our life together. And she was planning to destroy everything we'd created. But she'd made a critical error. She'd underestimated me. I'd spent my career solving complex engineering problems, managing multi-million-dollar projects, and coordinating teams of professionals to achieve difficult goals. I understood strategy, patience, and systematic execution. If Natalie wanted to play strategic games with our family, she was about to discover that she'd chosen a worthy opponent. The next morning, I met Lisa Parker at a coffee shop downtown. She was a compact woman in her 40s with observant eyes and a no-nonsense attitude that inspired confidence. "I've reviewed the divorce papers you sent over," she said, sliding a folder across the table. "This is sophisticated legal work. Your wife has been planning this for months. What can you find for me?" "Evidence of adultery, financial misconduct, professional ethics violations, whatever's there." Parker opened the folder, revealing photos and documents. "I've already started preliminary research on Dr. Fletcher. Interesting guy." The photos showed Dr. Fletcher at various professional events over the last year. Medical conferences, pharmaceutical industry gatherings, hospital fundraisers. Normal professional activities for a cardiologist building his practice. "Nothing unusual so far," Parker continued, "but I haven't started surveillance yet. If he's involved with your wife, I'll document it." "What about professional ethics?" "That's more complex. I have contacts in hospital administration and pharmaceutical compliance. If there are violations, they'll leave traces. Unusual prescribing patterns, contract irregularities, financial relationships that exceed normal boundaries." Parker closed the folder and met my eyes directly. "Mr. Mitchell, I need to be clear about something. If your wife is conducting an affair that violates professional ethics, exposing it will have serious consequences. She could lose her job, her career prospects, maybe face legal action. Dr. Fletcher could lose his medical license. And if I don't expose it? She takes half your assets, primary custody of your children, and substantial spousal support. Plus, she gets away with professional misconduct that could be affecting patient care and medical costs." The choice was simple. Natalie had initiated this conflict by planning our divorce in secret. I was simply defending my family and my interests. "Find me everything," I said. "It'll take about 2 weeks for comprehensive surveillance and document review. My retainer is $15,000. I wrote the check without hesitation. $30,000 invested in Margaret Weiss and Lisa Parker would protect assets worth nearly $2 million and ensure my children remained in a stable home environment. Over the next 10 days, I maintained normal routines while Parker worked. I attended Grace's school events, helped Cole prepare for debate regionals, and handled my engineering projects with professional efficiency. To outside observers, I was simply a successful businessman managing family and career responsibilities. But underneath the surface, I was systematically gathering intelligence on my wife's affair and its professional implications. Parker's first report arrived on a Wednesday morning. Natalie was in Durham for a pharmaceutical conference, scheduled to return Thursday evening. Perfect timing for uninterrupted review of the investigative findings. The surveillance photos were devastating. Natalie and Dr. Fletcher entering a hotel restaurant together, walking through hotel corridors with obvious intimacy, embracing in a hospital parking garage, sharing what appeared to be a romantic dinner at an upscale restaurant. But it was the financial documentation that provided the most damaging evidence. Dr. Fletcher's medical practice had received $340,000 in pharmaceutical contracts over the last 8 months, all arranged through Natalie's sales territory. The volume was unusual for a cardiology practice his size, suggesting influence beyond normal business relationships. More damaging were the expense reports. Natalie had charged $12,000 in client entertainment expenses to Vertex Pharmaceuticals for dinners, hotel rooms, and travel that coincided with Dr. Fletcher's schedule. She was using company resources to conduct her affair. Parker had also uncovered email evidence through hospital system sources. Dr. Fletcher had influenced prescription patterns and medical device purchases in favor of Vertex products, generating substantial commission income for Natalie. The professional misconduct was clear and documented. Natalie's affair with Dr. Fletcher had compromised medical care decisions and violated both hospital ethics policies and pharmaceutical industry regulations. I called Margaret Weiss immediately. "This is excellent documentation," she said after reviewing Parker's report. "Your wife has committed adultery, professional misconduct, and used marital assets to fund the affair. We have multiple claims for recovery and strong defenses against her divorce petition. What's our next move? We file immediately. Adultery bars her from spousal support under North Carolina law. The professional misconduct supports claims for asset dissipation and potentially criminal conversation against Dr. Fletcher. The expense account fraud gives us grounds for restitution. How long before we can proceed? I can have papers filed by Friday. But Jake, once we start this process, there's no going back. Your wife will realize you know everything, and she'll likely retaliate." I thought about Grace's college plans and Cole's debate championships. I thought about 17 years of marriage and the family we'd built together. I thought about the secret key in Natalie's jewelry box and the months of lies she'd told our children. "File the papers," I said. Weiss's response was swift and comprehensive. By Friday afternoon, I had temporary orders granting me primary custody, exclusive use of the marital home, and preservation of all business assets. The court had also issued a restraining order preventing Natalie from accessing joint accounts or making financial decisions without court approval. But I wasn't finished. Parker's investigation had revealed enough professional misconduct to destroy both Natalie and Dr. Fletcher's careers. If they wanted to play strategic games with my family, they were about to learn the consequences of underestimating their opponent. I spent Friday evening preparing for Natalie's return. The house was clean, the children were excited to see her, and dinner was planned. Everything would appear normal until I decided to reveal what I knew. Natalie arrived home Saturday morning, cheerful and affectionate. She hugged Grace and Cole, asked about their school activities, and complimented the dinner I was preparing. The performance was flawless, loving wife and mother returning from business travel. "How was the conference?" I asked over lunch. "Productive. Several new opportunities for expanding our cardiac treatment accounts." She smiled at me across the table. "Dr. Fletcher sends his regards. He's been very helpful in introducing me to other cardiologists in the region." The casual mention of her lover's name, spoken in front of our children, felt like a slap. She was so confident in her deception that she could reference him directly. "That's wonderful," I said. "Professional relationships are so important in pharmaceutical sales." After lunch, Grace and Cole went upstairs to work on college applications and debate preparation. Natalie and I sat in our family room, sunlight streaming through the windows, surrounded by family photos and mementos of 17 years together. "Jake," she said, settling beside me on the sofa. "I've been thinking about our future. The kids are getting older, my career is expanding, your business is thriving. Maybe it's time to consider some changes." "What kind of changes?" "More travel opportunities for me. Perhaps a larger house closer to the medical district. Maybe private schools that specialize in preparing students for medical or engineering careers." She was testing me, laying groundwork for the divorce conversation she planned to initiate. Probably following legal advice from Jennifer Davidson about establishing grounds for change in circumstances. "Those are interesting ideas," I said carefully. "We should discuss them thoroughly before making any major decisions." Natalie smiled and kissed my cheek. "I love that about you, Jake. Always so thoughtful and methodical." That evening, after the kids went to bed, I sat in my office reviewing Parker's final surveillance report. Photos of Natalie and Dr. Fletcher from just 2 days ago, having dinner at an expensive restaurant in Durham. She'd charged the meal to her Vertex expense account as client entertainment. My phone buzzed with a text from Margaret Weiss. Final documents ready for Monday filing. Are you prepared to proceed? I looked at the family photo on my desk. Natalie, Grace, Cole, and me at last summer's beach vacation. All of us laughing, happy, secure in our family bonds. Natalie's smile in the photo looked identical to the one she'd given me this afternoon when discussing our future. How long had she been planning to destroy this family? How many months had she been conducting her affair while sitting at our dinner table, helping with homework, and attending school events? I typed my response to Weiss. Proceed with filing. Full documentation authorized. Sunday passed quietly. Natalie worked on pharmaceutical reports in her home office. Grace and Cole studied and practiced for their various academic competitions. I reviewed engineering project timelines and pretended everything was normal, but underneath the surface, I was finalizing the systematic destruction of my wife's career and her lover's medical practice. Monday morning, I drove Grace and Cole to school as usual, then headed to my office at Mitchell & Associates. The engineering firm hummed with normal activity, project meetings, client consultations, design reviews. My business partner, David Mitchell, no relation despite the shared name, was coordinating our latest hospital expansion project. The Carolinas Medical Center timeline is ahead of schedule, David reported during our morning meeting. Dr. Fletcher has been particularly helpful in coordinating with the cardiology department. I nearly choked on my coffee. Dr. Fletcher? Ryan Fletcher, cardiologist. He's our primary liaison for the cardiac wing expansion. Sharp guy, very professional. The irony was staggering. Dr. Fletcher was working with my engineering firm on a hospital project while conducting an affair with my wife that violated medical ethics. The professional world of Charlotte was smaller than I'd realized. I'll handle Dr. Fletcher's coordination personally from now on, I said. David looked surprised. Any particular reason? Just want to ensure proper oversight on such an important project. At 10 a.m., Margaret Weiss called with news. Papers are filed and served. Your wife should receive them within the hour at her office. We've also sent copies to Vertex Pharmaceuticals Compliance Department and Carolina's Medical Center Administration. How long before she realizes the scope of what we've documented? Probably by this afternoon. Her attorney will advise immediate damage control, but it's too late. The professional misconduct evidence is comprehensive. I spent the rest of the morning reviewing engineering project timelines, trying to maintain normal business operations while waiting for Natalie's reaction. At noon, my secretary informed me that Dr. Fletcher was in the lobby requesting an urgent meeting. I found him pacing in our reception area, still wearing hospital scrubs under a winter coat. He looked haggard, stress lines visible around his eyes. Mr. Mitchell, I need to speak with you privately. I led him to a conference room and closed the door. Through the glass walls, I could see my staff glancing our way with curiosity. I assume this is about the legal documents you received today, I said. Dr. Fletcher sank into a chair across from me. I don't know what to say. I never intended for any of this to happen. Which part? The affair with my wife or the professional ethics violations? He winced. Both. Neither. It's complicated. It's actually quite simple. You conducted an affair with a pharmaceutical sales representative who influenced your prescribing patterns and medical purchasing decisions. That violates hospital policy, medical ethics, and potentially federal regulations. I know how it looks, but DJ, how it looks is exactly how it is. I leaned forward, studying his face. Dr. Fletcher, you've compromised patient care for personal gratification. You violated your medical oath and betrayed the trust of your colleagues. Natalie said you'd never find out. She said you were too focused on business to pay attention to her personal life. The casual revelations stung. They discussed me, analyzed my weaknesses, planned around my trust. I'd been an obstacle to overcome rather than a person to respect. What exactly did she tell you about our marriage? Dr. Fletcher ran his hands through his hair. That you'd grown apart. That you were more interested in engineering projects than family relationships. That the marriage had been over emotionally for years. Standard affair justification. Rewrite marital history to excuse betrayal. And you believed her. I wanted to believe her. She's compelling. She's married with 2 children. I know. I made terrible decisions. He met my eyes directly. Mr. Mitchell, I'm prepared to face the consequences. I'll resign from the hospital, relocate my practice, whatever it takes to minimize damage to your family. Dr. Fletcher, the damage to my family began when you started sleeping with my wife. Your resignation won't repair that. He nodded miserably. What do you want from me? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You made choices that hurt my children, compromised patient care, and violated professional ethics. Those consequences will follow you regardless of where you relocate. I stood up, ending the meeting. Dr. Fletcher, you're no longer welcome in this building. All further communication should go through my attorney. After he left, I sat in the conference room for several minutes, processing the conversation. Dr. Fletcher seemed genuinely remorseful, but remorse didn't undo months of betrayal. His willingness to relocate suggested he understood his career in Charlotte was finished. My phone rang at 2 p.m. Natalie's name appeared on the caller ID. Jake, we need to talk. Immediately. Her voice was tight with controlled anger. No more pretense of the loving wife returning from business travel. About what? Don't play games with me. I know what you've done. I've protected my children and my business interests, just like you've been protecting yours for the last 8 months. Silence on the other end. Then, I want to come home and discuss this rationally. Natalie, you filed for divorce without discussion. You planned to take our children and half our assets. You conducted an affair that violated professional ethics. There's nothing rational about any of that. The children don't need to be involved in this. You involved them when you started planning to take them away from me. Another pause. I'll be home at 6. We'll talk then. Actually, you won't be home at 6. Check your legal documents more carefully. I hung up and called Margaret Weiss. She knows, I said. Expected. How did she take it? About as well as you'd expect. She wants to come home and discuss things rationally. Not happening. The restraining order is clear. She can't return to the marital residence without court approval. She'll need to find alternative housing. What about the professional consequences? Moving quickly. Vertex has placed her on administrative leave pending investigation. The hospital is reviewing Dr. Fletcher's privileges. Both institutions are taking this seriously. That evening, I explained the situation to Grace and Cole as carefully as possible. They were old enough to understand that their parents were having serious problems, but young enough to need reassurance about their own stability. Mom made some mistakes in her professional life, I said, as we sat in the family room. She's going to be living somewhere else for a while until things get resolved. Grace studied my face with the intensity I recognized as my own. How serious are these mistakes? Serious enough that she can't work right now. Cole looked confused. But Mom's good at her job. She always talks about how successful she is. Sometimes being successful in business requires making ethical choices. Mom made some poor choices. Is she in trouble with the law? Grace asked. She's in trouble with her employer and with our marriage. The law will sort out what happens next. Grace nodded slowly. At 15, she understood more than she let on. Cole, at 12, was still processing the idea that his successful, confident mother could make mistakes serious enough to disrupt their family. Are we going to be okay? Cole asked. We're going to be fine, I said firmly. This house is our home. Your schools, your friends, your activities, none of that changes. Mom's problems don't affect your security. Over the following weeks, the professional consequences accelerated. Vertex Pharmaceuticals fired Natalie for ethics violations and contract manipulation. Carolina's Medical Center suspended Dr. Fletcher's privileges pending investigation. The North Carolina Medical Board opened formal proceedings against his license. The financial implications were swift and decisive. Natalie lost her $125,000 salary and substantial commissions. Dr. Fletcher's practice began losing patients as word spread through the medical community. Hospital referrals disappeared, and his malpractice insurance rates increased dramatically. But the social consequences were equally devastating. Charlotte's professional community was tightly connected, and news of the affair and ethics violations spread quickly through business and social networks. The Charlotte Country Club quietly suggested Natalie's membership was no longer appropriate. Parents at Charlotte Latin School treated her with cool distance at school events. Meanwhile, my engineering firm benefited from the contrast. My handling of the situation, professional, ethical, focused on protecting my children, enhanced my reputation in the business community. New clients approached Mitchell & Associates specifically because they respected how I'd managed a personal crisis without compromising professional standards. 3 months after discovering the divorce papers, I attended Grace's graduation from the summer engineering program at NC State. She'd excelled in the program, earning recommendations for early admission to their undergraduate engineering school. "I'm proud of you," I told her after the ceremony. "Thanks, Dad, for everything." She hugged me tightly. "I know this year has been difficult, but you've kept everything stable for us." Cole had won the state debate championship, arguing his case about pharmaceutical industry ethics with passion and precision that made me proud. The irony wasn't lost on either of us that his championship topic had become our family's reality. Natalie attended both events, but the interactions were formal and limited. She'd found work with a smaller pharmaceutical company in a different region, but her career trajectory had been permanently damaged. The ethics violations would follow her throughout the industry. 6 months after the FedEx delivery that changed everything, Margaret Weiss negotiated a final settlement that protected my interests and ensured my children's stability. Natalie received minimal asset division due to her adultery and waste of marital resources. I retained primary custody with generous visitation for her when her schedule permitted. Most importantly, Grace and Cole remained in their family home, attended their chosen schools, and maintained stability despite their parents' relationship failure. The final divorce decree was granted exactly 1 year after Natalie's original filing, as required by North Carolina law. By then, our family had adapted to new routines and relationships. Dr. Fletcher had relocated to another state, his medical career permanently diminished by the ethics violations. Natalie had moved to a smaller city where her professional history was less well known. Both faced years of rebuilding careers damaged by their choices. I found myself reflecting on the year's events one evening as I watched Grace and Cole working on homework in our family room. The house felt peaceful, settled, secure. We'd survived the crisis that could have destroyed our family's foundation. Grace looked up from her calculus textbook. "Dad, I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" "When you discovered Mom's plans, you could have handled it differently. You could have been angry or vindictive, or tried to hurt her the way she hurt you." "Those were options," I agreed, "but you didn't. You focused on protecting us and doing what was right, even when it was difficult." Cole joined the conversation. "It's like that debate topic about ethics in business. You chose integrity even when other options might have been easier." I looked at my children, Grace preparing for college, Cole developing into a thoughtful young man, and realized they'd learned something valuable from our family's crisis. They'd seen that ethical choices matter, especially during difficult times. They'd learned that protecting family requires courage and strategic thinking, not just emotional reactions. Sometimes the right choice is the hardest choice, I said, but it's still the right choice. That night, after Grace and Cole went to bed, I sat in my office reviewing engineering plans for a new hospital project. Mitchell and Associates had grown significantly over the year, earning new clients who respected our integrity and professional standards. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Amanda Walsh, the hospital administrator I'd been dating for several months. She was intelligent, ethical, and shared my commitment to professional excellence. Our relationship had developed slowly, built on mutual respect and shared values rather than passion and deception. "Looking forward to tomorrow's dinner," her message read. Grace mentions she wants to discuss engineering schools. "I have some contacts at Duke and NC State who might be helpful." I smiled, appreciating how Amanda naturally included my children in our conversations. She understood that any relationship with me meant embracing my role as Grace and Cole's father. The grandfather clock chimed 10 times. Outside, our neighborhood was quiet and peaceful. Security lights illuminated well-maintained lawns and driveways where successful families lived their prosperous lives. 2 years ago, I'd believed I was living that same prosperous, stable life. I'd trusted in my marriage, my partnership, my family's foundation. The FedEx delivery had shattered those illusions, revealing deception and betrayal where I'd seen love and loyalty. But it had also revealed strength I didn't know I possessed. When faced with strategic attack on my family and business, I'd responded with methodical precision and ethical consistency. I'd protected what mattered most without compromising my values or harming my children. The divorce papers that arrived by accident had been intended as a weapon against me. Instead, they'd become the catalyst for rebuilding our family on a stronger foundation. I closed my laptop and headed upstairs, pausing to check on Grace and Cole. Both were sleeping peacefully in bedrooms decorated with their achievements. Grace's engineering awards and college preparation materials, Cole's debate trophies and academic certificates. They were thriving despite the family upheaval, perhaps because of how we'd handled it. They'd learned that integrity matters, that ethical choices have consequences, and that protecting family requires both courage and strategy. In the master bedroom, I looked out the window at Charlotte's skyline in the distance. This city had been my home for 20 years, the place where I'd built my career and raised my children. Whatever challenges lay ahead, we were staying right here. The next morning brought normal routines: breakfast with Grace and Cole, discussion of their school activities, planning for weekend family time with Amanda. Life had settled into new patterns that felt stable and promising. Grace showed me her latest college application essay about how family challenges had influenced her career goals in structural engineering. Cole practiced a new debate topic about corporate responsibility and professional ethics. Both were applying lessons from our family's experience to their academic and personal development. "Dad," Grace said over breakfast, "I've been thinking about Mom lately." "What about her?" "I hope she's okay. I know what she did was wrong, but she's still our mother." "She is. And despite everything that happened, I hope she finds happiness and success in her new life." Cole nodded agreement. "We learned from her mistakes, right? About making ethical choices and considering consequences?" "We did, and hopefully, she learned from them too." That afternoon, I received a call from Jennifer Davidson, Natalie's attorney. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm calling to inform you that my client has decided to relocate permanently to another state. She'll be relinquishing her visitation rights and transferring full custody to you." The news wasn't surprising. Natalie's career required rebuilding in a market where her history wasn't well known. Charlotte held too many professional and personal consequences for her to remain. What about the children? She'll maintain contact through calls and emails, but she won't be seeking regular visitation. She believes this arrangement is in their best interests. After hanging up, I sat in my office considering the implications. Grace and Cole would lose regular contact with their mother, but they'd also avoid the ongoing stress of custody transitions and divided loyalties. They could focus on their education and development without the complexity of managing their mother's damaged relationships. That evening, I explained the situation to Grace and Cole as gently as possible. "Mom has decided that her work requires her to live far away," I said. "She'll stay in touch, but she won't be visiting regularly anymore." Grace processed this information with her characteristic analytical approach. "She's choosing her career over us. She's choosing what she believes is best for everyone involved." "Is it best for us?" Cole asked. "I think it might be. You'll have stability, consistency, and the ability to focus on your own goals without managing complex family relationships." Grace nodded slowly. "It's sad, but it's probably right. We can't base our lives on her mistakes." 3 months later, I married Amanda Walsh in a small ceremony attended by close friends and family. Grace and Cole served as witnesses, both proud to welcome Amanda into our family officially. She brought her own professional success and ethical standards to our partnership, creating a foundation built on mutual respect and shared values. Grace was accepted to NC State's engineering program with full academic scholarships. Cole continued his debate success, earning recognition at national competitions. Both had learned to excel academically while maintaining strong family relationships. Amanda integrated seamlessly into our family routines, supporting Grace's college preparation and Cole's academic competitions while building her own relationship with each of them. She understood that my children weren't obstacles to overcome but essential parts of any life we'd build together. The house in Myers Park remained our family home, now filled with new traditions and relationships. Amanda's medical administration background complemented my engineering career, and we often collaborated on hospital infrastructure projects where her operational expertise enhanced my structural design work. 2 years after our wedding, Grace graduated summa cum laude from NC State with a degree in structural engineering. Her senior project focused on hospital design optimization, a direct application of lessons learned from our family's experience with medical ethics and institutional responsibility. Cole was accepted to Duke University with plans to study law and public policy, inspired by his debate experience and family history to focus on professional ethics and corporate responsibility. At Grace's graduation ceremony, I reflected on the journey that had brought us to this moment. The FedEx delivery that revealed Natalie's betrayal had initially seemed like devastating news. Instead, it had become the catalyst for rebuilding our family on stronger foundations. Grace approached me after the ceremony, diploma in hand, ready to begin her career as a professional engineer. "Dad, I want to thank you for something." "What's that?" "For showing me that integrity isn't just about making right choices when it's easy. It's about making right choices when everything is falling apart." "You learned that on your own, sweetheart." "I learned it by watching you. When Mom's affair could have destroyed our family, you protected us without destroying yourself. That's the kind of person I want to be, and the kind of engineer I want to become." Cole joined us, already wearing his Duke University t-shirt with characteristic enthusiasm. "Grace is right," he said. "You could have responded with anger or revenge, but you chose strategy and ethics instead. That's why we're all here today, stronger than we were before." As we walked across campus together, Grace, Cole, Amanda, and me, I realized that the family we'd built was more resilient than the one we'd started with. We'd been tested by betrayal and deception, but we'd emerged with deeper bonds and clearer values. The engineering principles I'd applied to our personal crisis, methodical analysis, strategic planning, ethical execution, had protected what mattered most while eliminating what threatened our stability. 5 years after the FedEx delivery, I received a postcard from Natalie. She was working for a small pharmaceutical company in Oregon, had remarried, and seemed to have found stability in her new life. The postcard contained no apology or explanation, just a brief note that she hoped Grace and Cole were thriving. Grace was working as a structural engineer for a major firm in Charlotte, designing hospital expansions and medical facilities. Cole was in his senior year at Duke, preparing for law school with focus on corporate ethics and professional responsibility. Both had built successful lives rooted in the lessons learned from our family's crisis. Amanda and I had expanded Mitchell & Associates into a regional engineering firm specializing in healthcare infrastructure. Our marriage had produced its own stability and success, built on foundations of mutual respect and shared professional values. The house in Myers Park remained our family home, now filled with grandchildren who would never know the chaos that had once threatened to destroy everything we cared about. The grandfather clock still chimed the hours, marking time in a home that had survived betrayal and emerged stronger. On quiet evenings, I sometimes thought about the choices that had led us to this stability. Natalie's decision to conduct an affair that violated professional ethics. Dr. Fletcher's willingness to compromise patient care for personal gratification. Jennifer Davidson's strategic legal advice that backfired when confronted with superior preparation. Each of them had made choices based on short-term desires rather than long-term consequences. Each had underestimated the power of systematic response to strategic attack. The FedEx delivery had been intended as a weapon against my family. Instead, it had become the foundation for rebuilding our lives with greater strength and clearer purpose. In my office, I kept a framed copy of the final divorce decree, not as a symbol of victory, but as a reminder that ethical choices matter most when everything is at stake. Grace and Cole had learned that lesson through our family's experience. Now they were applying it to their own careers and relationships. The grandfather clock chimed midnight, marking another day in a life rebuilt through ethical choices and strategic patience. Outside, Charlotte's skyline gleamed in the darkness, a city where I'd raised my children and built my career through careful attention to integrity and long-term thinking. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. But tonight, in a house filled with family members who'd chosen each other through love and commitment rather than accident of birth, I felt the deep satisfaction that comes from protecting what matters most. The drafted papers that arrived by FedEx had been intended to end my family. Instead, they'd become the beginning of something stronger, more ethical, and more enduring than what we'd started with. Some battles are won through superior strategy. Others are won through superior values. The best victories come from combining both approaches with patience, precision, and unwavering commitment to protecting what matters most. The grandfather clock marked another hour in a life lived with integrity, surrounded by family members who'd learned the same lessons and applied them to their own choices. Whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together, with values that had been tested and proven through the crucible of betrayal and strategic response. The house settled into peaceful quiet, secure in foundations that had been tested and found strong enough to last.